Happy Friday to everyone paying attention today live. And if you're not live, then happy whatever day it is for you. So have you ever had one of those interactions with people where you meet them and then you just find that you know all the same people in common and your lives have just been inextricably intertwined and you didn't even know it? Well, today's guest is exactly that person to me. Today, I am being joined by Cissna, and I'm going to plug her in right now. Hey, Sarah, how are you?
Hi, I'm great.
It's just kind of crazy. Like once you and I finally connected, to find out how truly connected we were.
I know it was like, oh wait, oh you're that person. Oh, and you know that person,
Right,
you know that person.
right,
What? How have we not met?
right. And then we bump into each other at the MGM, and then we're like we're playing slots together.
It was
You know,
amazing.
we had our final meal, our final event meal over at Cater Source TSC this year. Like literally bumping
Literally.
into, you know, it's a lot of fun. Well, and speaking of fun, your background, of course, as you were putting that together just before the
I was.
before
I
the
was.
before we
Just
went live,
totally
for
out.
everyone's just so everyone's aware, she was putting that all together. And as she's putting this together, and I'm like, oh well, that's her theater roots. That's 100% her theater roots in play. She's like looking at the camera, looking at her background, making sure the stage is set. I loved it. I loved watching your process through it.
I'm actually also like, I'm just gonna tilt that a smidge so I cut out that top.
I
I
it.
think that's it. That was one of the things. As a director, I'm a visual director. I'm not an actor's director, and so I know what the picture needs to look like to tell the story. And as far as like acting moments and all of that, I'd be like, you figure that out on your own. I don't know
Right.
what you feel, but I
Exactly.
know you need to cross at this point, or I know that lamp needs to live there.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And it was just a lot, and you have like so many personal things behind you. It was like it was fun to walk with you through that. But
Well,
well, so for those of you who don't know who out there who don't know who Sarah is, Sarah, let's get that elevator pitch right out of the gate.
sure. So my name is Sarah Cissna, CSCP. I own the Side Lobby, a company I have owned for 7 years now, 7 years July. And I work mostly with nonprofit and arts organizations, helping them with their events to achieve their marketing and fundraising objectives. I came to that because I come from a theater background. As you said, I have a Master of Fine Arts in directing. I was pursuing a career in the arts for about 10 years before I said, that has horrible hours and treats you like crap. And so I found the world of special events, was like, where have you been all my life? And worked in-house at a couple of arts organizations here in DC. As well as at a for-profit small PR company where we work mostly with associations and nonprofits. And I realized that there are so many small and mid-size, like scrappy, doing amazing work, but with really limited staff and budget. And they are really struggling with events, I think. When you have a to-do stack that's like this, and you produce an event on top, like it just slides off, right? And just because you're small or challenged by staff size or by budget doesn't mean you shouldn't have a successful event. So I realized there are a lot of folks that needed help, and I started my company to do just that.
That's fantastic. It was so you that, it was, you found, not only a market to serve, but it was a market that you had almost sort of like been working towards in your career. Sort of like a long march towards working with this particular clientele.
Totally. I mean,
Yeah.
I moved into DC. I grew up in Northern Virginia. I moved into DC in 2002 to start graduate school at Catholic University. So it's been almost, right, 2002. Yeah. So I've been in the district almost 20 years, and I realized like that's a full lifetime. Like that's a fully fleshed out human that I've been here.
Yeah.
So, and being in events has been, the majority of that time as well.
Yeah, exactly. And well, and it's been, you know, it's been really interesting to watch or to learn about what you do because again, it's such an underserved market. And now especially it needs help now more than ever, I would think. Like I would think that, especially since everyone's home and we're all going virtual and we're
Mhm.
all sort of, some people are, tight financially. What has been some of the, I guess, feedback from all of your clients? Like, are they frightened? Are they concerned? Or like, what's their emotion right now?
It's interesting. A lot of the companies that I work with, the organizations that I work with, are social good
Yeah.
of various types. So I think that in terms of their general fundraising, they haven't seen really a whole lot of a dip. Now,
Oh,
I
good.
come from the arts world, right?
Right.
That's a very different story when you're talking about a combination of earned revenue and unearned revenue, or fundraising versus like actual cash dollars, right? So, and in arts organizations like that, the percentage differs, but it's 50-50, 60-40, earned, unearned, whatever that might be. And when you see all of your revenue go away, like your earned revenue, it becomes very hard to pay the bills. So I would say that in the arts world, in the performing arts world at this point in time, it's a really challenging place. You and I, you and I were having guacamole and margaritas the very last night we were in Las Vegas for the special event Cater Source, and that Thursday night, March 12th. And I got on a red eye that night and I got back to DC the next day. My husband picked me up. We went out to breakfast and I was like, it is a different world than when I left DC. To be in Vegas, like walking the halls of the conference center, wherever we were,
Yeah.
and to
The
see
Mandalay. Yeah.
people on phone calls everywhere and their faces just falling. And you're like, oh, they just lost another event. They just lost another event. They just lost another event. I like, so my industry was just imploding. And
Right.
then I got home and I'm married to a theatrical lighting designer. So I'm not out of theater. I married back into it. And so like to see all of those former colleagues, like, and all of those shows, like,
Yeah.
I live on Capitol Hill. I'm surrounded by small businesses. I am a small business. And so seeing all of those challenges, blah, 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 blah.
Right. So it's
Not
like
like
a
anyone,
lot.
is anyone understanding? Yeah, it's been interesting.
Yeah. It was and it didn't feel like the last meal, but it was. It didn't feel like the Last Supper.
No, it didn't.
Uh,
It was really good guac, I will say.
It was. It was. I had John Diadamo on the show a couple of weeks
Oh
ago,
yeah, yeah.
and he was saying the same thing. Who was also there that night, and he was like, it didn't feel like this was going to be it. I feel like had any of us sitting there that night really thought about it or really known what we were going to be facing when we came back home, we probably would have blown it out. It probably would have been more than chips and guac. We would have gone out for like a show, spent, partied on the strip, something. Like we would have just gone a little bit crazier, something, right, to commemorate the occasion. But yeah, it's such a crazy whirlwind. It is. Since that
And
time.
I feel
Yeah.
like events will come back, right?
They
If
will.
there's one
They will.
thing that we have learned from staying at home by ourselves, or, surrounded by the same people, it's that the human contact, even if it's a handshake, if it's a high five, it's a hug, or if it's just I'm sitting in the presence of another human who is also breathing,
Right.
that desire to gather and congregate is not going to go away. And if anything, it's going to come roaring back and people are really going to want to get together. What I will say I'm really excited about are two things. Two.
Okay. That's okay.
Two and two.
You can add more. You can 100% add more if you
I was
want.
like,
Okay. Let's do it.
that's 4. That's not 2. I am good at math, even though I was a theater major. So
That's right. Yeah.
I feel the need to defend my major a lot. Anyhow, so I think in terms of my major, right, in terms of theater and the arts, there is really exciting, there are really exciting ideas percolating. This is really causing, I think, the arts community to think differently, right? Because it's been the same setup. Like you go in, you see a performance, you leave, right? How are we engaging with our audiences in different ways? It's the same in the world of events. And I will say specifically with nonprofits, I am a firm believer that you should not host an event that is strictly for fundraising.
Right.
I'm waiting to be promoted. Like, that is.
I'm with you though. I am 100% with you.
Good. Right,
there has to be, there has to be, there has to be something else.
It is not okay for the majority of organizations, right? I will say for some organizations, like, doing a huge multi-million-dollar fundraising event worked for them. Okay, great. That's like the 1%, right, of nonprofit organizations. The majority of us down here in the real world, that's not what it's about, right? Because the price per person is so high compared to like running a Facebook ad or whatever, right? So if you're going to invest that kind of money, you also though have a captive audience for 2 hours, 1 hour, 3 hours, whatever you have, right? You hold all the messaging. Whereas that Facebook ad, I'm like, bloop, 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 scroll, scroll, scroll. I see it for a hot second, it's gone. The messaging has to be like 3 words or less. So if I have you for 2 hours, I need not to be worrying about getting $100 from you. I need to worry about making you a raving fan so that when you leave my event, you tell everybody, oh my goodness, I attended this event, and not they had a mashed potato bar, but I attended this event for this organization that is doing amazing work.
Right.
They are housing families with single mothers who have lost everything, or they are helping survivors of domestic violence and all these statewide organizations that work to help those survivors, right? That is exciting. That I can tell you. I can communicate my excitement to you, and I'm going to keep coming back to that organization, to support them later on, right? We're laying the ground. It's about building the relationship. So I'm also really hoping that in addition to cool creative, like how can we have virtual events, I'm also hoping that some events die. Not going to lie.
So am I though.
My only goal is to raise $30,000. Like you shouldn't be doing an event.
Well, I mean, and ultimately what I'm finding, like with my nonprofit clients is that, once they, they had to make the shift. They had to make the shift very quickly, right? Because like, as we all know in the nonprofit world or the fundraising world, there's a ramp up. You don't just decide on April 1st that you're going to do a fundraiser and by April 30th you've raised $3 million. Like that is not how that works.
Right.
So they, so when we examined, our fall and winter schedule in terms of what we were going to do, they switched fundraising tactics. They're like, we got down to brass tacks. We're like, okay, this is these are the fundamentals. This is what we're looking to do with this, or so they launched immediately, sort of like a giving campaign. They have matched those dollars because people know that times are tough, things are going to change, and that these organizations need help. So they've been donating the money. The people who donated are donating what they would have donated anyway, and we will still have engagement. We will still have virtual programming. We will still have the reasons that people are fans. So we've separated the fandom from the financial ask from it, and that was fine. So for those of you nonprofits out there, take it from both myself and Sarah, it will be fine if you separate those two fundamental goals. Right. Because people get it. People get it. They know that you still need to stay afloat. They know that you need financial assistance. And if they were inclined to do so before, they will continue.
And that, right.
to
And that's
support.
the exact thing, right?
Yeah.
We're using those we need to be using those in-person events
Yep.
to build a relationship, to have the conversation with your current donors, as well as folks who are new. If I brought 9 people with me, don't talk to the person you already know. Talk to the people that are new. Get to know them so that you build that relationship. So 2 months down the road, you can pick up the phone and say, hey, it was so great to meet you. We are launching this campaign. I'm wondering if you would support us with a gift of $20 or whatever that might be, right? I learned actually, I learned that such a unicorn exists. I had no idea. I always joke that I am on the search for the board chair that started with an organization as a guest of at an event.
Oh.
And I was convinced that they don't exist because I think the majority of organizations, again, because they are strapped for time, because they're doing the work of 1.5 to 2 people, and they're doing like, what's burning, and call time and stewardship falls by the wayside, right?
Yeah.
People come to these events. If you think about it in terms of sales, which is slimy and I don't really like, but like that's 200 hot leads, steaming, right? They came in the door. They wanted to come. What are we doing with them? We're adding them to our mailing list. We're emailing them maybe once in the year, and then we're emailing them our annual campaign and end of year campaign and Giving Tuesday. So we're like, hi, you came to our event. Give.
Right. Exactly.
Great friends.
No, you know what? But that's a really great analogy, though, is to compare it to sales process, right? Because that's essentially what you're doing is you're selling them on what you're doing.
You're selling your organization,
and you're asking them for money.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to ask, like, what are the deliverables? Like, what are you giving them back in exchange for donating?
And it's not like surf and turf dinner.
Right. Exactly.
I can get that on my own.
Right.
But so I found actually, I attended Woolly Mammoth Theater Company, which is where I worked on and off over the years. They have my artistic heart. Woolly took their event online. It was a great production. They did a wonderful job, and that was like within the first 4 weeks, I think, of quarantine. Anyhow. Their current board chair, Lynette Wu, who is a wonderful, amazing human, she started as a guest at their annual benefit years and years and years ago. And I was like, she's the magical unicorn. Because like
she exists.
She exists. And I've known Lynette for a decade now, and I had no idea. So people do exist, right? People do exist, but so again, it's how are we building those relationships? And also the exciting thing about taking events virtual for some of these organizations, like a performing arts organization, you have a space, right?
Yeah.
You can show what you're doing. You can't necessarily maybe show some of like your outreach or your education, but very clearly you have a product that is out there, and you'd be like, hi, look at the work we do. Right. But for a lot of these organizations, confidentiality is a big part of it, and they can't say, here are the clients we help. Here are our survivors of domestic violence. Like, no, that's not how it works. But being and for certain also there's no venue, like built-in venue, right? So, but virtually, I can have an executive director stand in front of a housing facility, right? I can put a board chair on a playground that we helped build, or whatever your organization does. Use that, that new ability to like take someone from their living room to the work that you're doing.
Right.
And so that's exciting.
It is exciting because it challenges us to really rethink what it means to put on an event, or what an event really means. Mm-hmm. And to stop being formulaic, like you said, to just start thinking outside of the box, which to me it feeds my creative soul to want to stretch and grow that way. Yeah. It's a total pain, because now you're coming up with like 7 plans for the same event based on, the following 7 contingencies of where we are in the COVID stages. But even that is great because what I'm finding is that my clients are far more receptive to out of the box thinking, right?
Mhm.
I don't know if you've gotten there where, I mean, because you work in the arts, so I would assume that they're a lot more open in terms of format and content to begin with.
It's
But
interesting. So
maybe not.
I
I don't
originally,
know.
I originally started the side lobby with the goal of assisting small and mid-sized arts organizations because I had come from 2 large theaters that were fortunate to have a special events manager on their full-time staff.
Okay.
At the same time, when budgets start getting cut, like that is a luxury staff position. That is not a needed staff position, and so that's when we first on the chopping block. Hello, times like now, right?
Right.
I would have been furloughed right away. And when you're talking small and mid-sized arts organizations, like maybe you have an artistic director, like you have some sort of artistic creative leader, right? Maybe you have someone on the other side, and that could be it.
Right.
So originally like that, those were my folks, but then I realized, there's a lot of just non-arts nonprofits that are in that same realm. Like not everyone can be the Heart Association or Leukemia Society, right? We've got a lot of smaller organizations, and they're doing amazing work, and I want to help them do that work. Shoot, where is it going with this? Small people, arts people.
No, that's okay.
Creativity, right? I have actually 2 clients right now that are celebrating their 30th anniversaries, completely coincidentally.
Nice.
And originally it was, here are these legacy events we've been doing for a couple of years. And, there's sort of like this, should we mix this up? Are we getting stale? Do we need to mix this up? And we're like 30th anniversary year, like let's go out with a bang, do the same thing, kind of not play it safe, but like, let's not shake things up in this year, right?
Okay, right.
Use this as sort of a send out, and then maybe next year we turn things on its head. Well, then the COVID strikes,
right.
And you're like, well, since we were thinking about mixing that up. So actually with both of those, we've started mixing things up.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
I mean, well,
exciting.
and that's what it is. It's kind of like, at this point in time, it's, and now is, like we were just talking about, before we went live, I were talking about like, how we're each handling it. And I noted that, for myself personally, things that were on my someday list where I had thought maybe that might take another 2 or 3 years have suddenly been fast tracked to that 6-month time frame. Like, oh, okay, I guess I'm doing that now. I guess now is the time because now I have the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reorganize the home office shelving has been on the list for it gets carried over every week, actually, like for the past year.
And it took a call with me. You're like, well,
and I was like, hey, I'm gonna do that now.
Yeah, exactly. Like right now. Like right now.
Right now.
Perfect.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't usually work from my home office. I usually work at the Yard co-working space, which is a fantastic space here on Capitol Hill. It's in walking distance to my house. And I was like, that office, that desk space is lovely.
Yeah, but I'm the same way. Like when I get back to my office, I'm going to have to redo that space because I've got a chandelier hanging in my background and like champagne bottles stacked to the ceiling from a project that I did for a holiday project. So I'm not looking forward to it.
It feels very like Pompeii when I had to walk in to get some things and I was like, oh right, I left that big stack of signs for that other client like on my desk and there it is. A little layer of this. You
found a mixtape. Like 10 minutes before we were supposed to go live, you found a mixtape. When was that mixtape from? So I just so everybody knows, I told her that I was going to bring this up because when she said she found the mixtape, I'm like, now I need to know know the songs. I need to know what's on that mixtape.
It is true. So, and this is also like a true relic because some of you out there are aware that after I started graduate school for directing, 3-year program at Catholic, I wanted to go to grad school in the city where I wanted to start being a freelance director. So I chose DC. I went to Catholic, and about 4 months before I graduated, I got an offer to go be the director of production at Perseverance Theater in Juneau, Alaska. And when you're finishing an MFA program in directing, there aren't a whole lot of people that are like, knock, knock, full-time job with health insurance, come work for me. And I was like, so Juneau, yes, let's go.
Right. I remember that you said you were in Alaska. I couldn't remember why.
Yeah, that was why. It was her job. I was only there for a season and a half. But anyways, moral of the story, when I was like packing up all my stuff, my dear friend Natalie saw my shoebox of all my old cassette tapes, many mixtapes in there. She's like, what is this? Why are you taking this? It's 2005. And I was like, but I need them. So sorry, Wilson Phillips, that was in there. Rhythm Nation, that was in there. Gone. Could have made a lot of money.
Nothing wrong with
that.
So
Natalie, I was like, I can't do it. She's like, I will take them for you. So she took my shoebox, but I held on to these.
Funny.
These are treasures.
Yes.
So this is actually circa 1995. The first one is called Best of the Three. It is Tori Amos, Tracy Chapman, and Sarah McLachlan.
Classic mid-90s. Yeah.
Classic mid-90s. It was a gift to me from my dear friend Brian Johnson, who is now the amazing executive director of Equality Illinois. And he and his husband have a beautiful daughter. And I was like, we need to start playing this for her. So she's ready. Anyway, so he made me this one. And then 1995, if you recall, a young lady named Fiona Apple also came on the scene. And Brian was more of a Tracy fan than I was. And so I made Best of the Three Part 2, Sarah McLachlan, Fiona Apple, and Tori Amos.
I can't imagine, if you had photos, I would 100% be asking you to whip out those photos right about now. Because that sounds like it would have been hilarious.
It's pretty awesome.
Pretty amazing
stuff. And so much so, I liked this one so much so that I made myself my own to keep, as well as sending one to him. So
that's cute. That's adorable.
And I totally forgot I had them, and I do actually have a cassette player somewhere in my house that I will bust them out to. I have tried to like create my own little Amazon playlist of all of those songs, so we'll see how well I did.
Exactly. You'll have to surprise your kids.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so your children right now, they're seeing you like at, both you and your husband at home. I would gather a lot more frequently than what you normally would have. I mean, there's the interruption to their schedule, the interruption to your schedule.
Yeah.
Like, how is that working out for you on a home life? Like, have you all settled, or is it still that rockiness?
It was like right when we settled in, it all turned around. I'm not gonna lie, Trish, like I remember walking through the airport in Vegas that Thursday night, and all of a sudden people were wearing masks, which they hadn't been doing 4 days before. And I got on this plane and I came home, and it was weird because it was a red eye. So it was almost like I went to sleep and I woke up in another dimension.
Right.
Like DCPS had just announced that they were closing schools. So that was like, hey, surprise, today's your last day for who knows how long. All the things were happening, right? Mayor Bowser was putting us into a thing. Anyhow, that first week I did not do well. Like I really did not do well.
But that's okay.
It's a sucker punch. Mental health awareness month. I see a therapist regularly. I'm a firm believer that everyone should. I've known her longer than I've known my husband. And thankfully I had someone to talk to, but like, I just like, it was hard that first week. Once we got into more of a routine, it was better. I have a 5-year-old who was in kindergarten, and I have a 3-year-old who was in like daycare preschool. And my husband also, in addition to being a freelance lighting designer, is also a professor at the University of Maryland. So he was also figuring out like, what does class look like now for them? And we got into an okay schedule. I think at the beginning I had this I'm trying to look and see where it is. It's hiding under things that I'm reorganizing. I had this long list of like, oh, here are all those long-term business things I wanted to work on, like you were saying, right? And I was like, here we go. And then here are all these home projects I've been wanting to work on. Woo! I can do one a day. Yeah, no.
Yeah, no. If you're like most people, you took a break. Like look, after all my clients were taken care of, and after, because of course, like, you come home and it's just, I again walking very similar parallel paths.
Mhm.
I get off the red eye. I went from Vegas to LA to see family, and then I get off the red eye on Monday. My first thing was to go to the grocery store because I'm like most people, where like you run down your supplies
Before
when
you
you're
go
going
on
out for.
vacation out of town. Yeah.
Yeah, like I knew I was coming, as per usual, I was coming home to like an empty apartment. So I didn't have anything, so I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna, is it gonna be like, one of those Hollywood scenes? Am I gonna
Like
need
Russia.
body armor?
Russia, 1980, right?
Right?
My
It's gonna be
Trader
like
Joe's was
Mad
like that
Max.
on Saturday night, the 14th. Yeah.
Right. But I figured like at 6 o'clock in the morning, which is where, when I got
Like
to
the raccoon.
Wegmans. Yeah, it was like but people were there. But people were 100% 6 o'clock in the morning on a Monday morning were
Mhm.
shopping at Wegmans, and that's when I knew. That's when I knew. It wasn't the airport. It wasn't the Vegas. It wasn't visiting.
Mhm.
It was none of that. It was getting to. The sun was still not up, and I'm shopping for groceries and supplies at a time where I'm expecting to see myself and one cashier,
Right.
and there are like 50 people in this grocery store. And I was like, oh, nuts. That's when it
It was
really hit
real.
me. That's when I
It
got
was real.
real. And, I mean, and again, and I got home. And so it was like, client calls and taking care of everything else and everyone else in my world, for the first couple of weeks. But once that subsided, I just took like a breather for about a solid 2 weeks, where I was just like, you know what? I have been going a mile a minute, for what felt like a very long time. So yeah, there's no wrong or right way to have dealt with what's
Right.
going on, because we were all sort of like we all have our particular ways of dealing with it. I think what really counts is how you get out of it, how you process it, but then how you move on from it,
Yeah.
is really what's going to be important.
Yeah. I went
Yeah.
into I do crisis mode very well. And that's a very difficult thing. And that comes from my background pre-directing. I was a stage manager.
Yeah.
Like I said, I was a production manager. So, it's your job if you're running a show and like the power goes out, how do you fix that? Right.
Right.
Um, say, and like, you can't market yourself as like, I'm a crisis person. I will come and be your crisis person and like stand by. But that really is one of my biggest strengths, as an event producer, is
Right.
knowing, like, having the plan so you know what you can rely on, and then knowing how to handle all the things that might come your way.
Right.
So I went into that like triage crisis mode on Saturday. I was like, all right, I'm going to the grocery store. I'm going to do this. You keep the children. I'm going to go do that. So it was like, and then I went into shutdown mode, and
Right.
I just needed to like wallow for a little bit. Like, it's hard to wallow when you have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old and a husband who's like, hi, I've been taking care of these kids for a week. Can you help me?
Right.
We very much co-parent, but he was like, hi, can I tag out for a day?
Right.
So yeah, but like once I got through that, it was like, okay, let's figure out a schedule. For me, a schedule is, I gotta have it. Like, and for our family, for the kids, like to be able to hang kind of points of the day, was really important. And there was a lot of wait and see for my clients. We were like that first week back. I did one client call on Thursday morning. I was checking out of my hotel. I did it in the hallway. And that was the first like, hey, it was still on, right? And we were still
Right.
on for that event, that anniversary event. And it was like, oh, it's going to be great. It's going to be fine. And then meanwhile, I had been on a call earlier in the day for a series of events that was coming up in April. And I was just a small piece of it, but it was like, and this is canceled, and this is canceled, and this is canceled, and this is canceled. And I was like, oh. Fortunately, the bulk of my client events were already in the fall, so we've had the luxury of like, I haven't had to like turn on a dime quite so much. Another one of my clients, we were scheduled to do a whole series of events throughout the summer, once a monthly event starting in April, with the idea, the goal of creating community in person, like
Gathering.
gathering,
The
like
whole,
for the
right.
whole purpose of gathering.
Yeah.
And so we've had to, clearly we're reformatting and we're rethinking, and that's a business membership organization. So it really is about like, how are we serving those businesses, and what is it that they're going to need, when we are able to meet together. So that's been, I've through that, I've gotten to kind of know a little bit more about all the various things that are going to companies with, large staffs and whatnot. I will say that is something I feel really fortunate for.
Yeah.
There are times when the side lobby is just me. It will only ever be just me. I have a roster of event day staff that I use regularly.
Yeah.
My clients know them, but in terms of like, when you hire the side lobby, you get me. And that has been like the best thing through this, because I didn't have to lay off any staff.
Yeah. And I'm the same. I had just taken on an assistant this year. But that was, but working with contractors, is a much better, it makes a lot more sense for myself personally. Like with you, like it just makes a lot more sense to bring people on a per project basis than to keep them on full-time and staff.
Exactly. Yeah. And, it allows me, I remember I put in a proposal to something once, and the RFP was very, very thin, like unclear in terms of what they needed. Like, had I known more, I would have been like, actually, I'm not at all the right fit for you. Like, I shouldn't even put in a proposal for this. But they went with like this huge, nationally known, like nationwide company, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm not in. No. But on the call, she was like, it's okay. She's like, I think you do great work, and I so really love your brand, and you're going to get bigger, and it's going to be great. And I'm like, but I'm not going to get bigger. That's not the point. Because if I got bigger, I would have a higher overhead. And if I had a higher overhead, I would have to charge more to my clients that are challenged by budget.
Right. Right. I mean,
and
ultimately, that's what it is.
The exact client I'm trying to serve. So,
yeah,
and that's not saying I do not cut my prices. I am priced fairly, but I don't have to add on more to take care of those extra costs.
Right, exactly. I think that's a really important note for just like a lot of people who might be thinking about, like the way they're going to transform their business, or the way, whether it's scaling up or scaling back. You have to think about, that when you do scale up, a lot of people have asked me like, why I don't have a bigger team, or, why I don't have a team, per se. And I'm like, that's just more overhead, just because it's higher revenue on my P&L. There's additional L when you add, when you're shooting for that P.
Right.
So, so for me, it's like, I'd rather do, work in ways that are smarter for me from a profit perspective, and not necessarily, and that's not necessarily it. I'm not saying that can't be it for a lot of other people. It's just for me, it did not necessarily make sense for my life.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, and that's, and that was sort of it too.
Yeah.
For me, noticing that, the folks that I try to serve, right, they don't have the budget that can afford a larger firm, that has an amazing staff. And I'm not saying anything against any firms that are large. No,
but they do what they do.
And
and there's a reason that they're big.
Suited for a different client.
Right, exactly. Like when you're the Robin Hood,
right.
So
right.
So Robin Hood, you can put on.
So I'm not going after the giant huge thing.
Yeah, exactly. If you're like a if you're like a Robin Hood association, or like or something like that.
Yeah, you can work with the
Oh,
David
yeah.
Stark. David Stark can make a beautiful room for you, and isn't that amazing? People are, for those of you that don't know David Stark design, I highly encourage you to just go look at his work because it is beautiful.
It really is gorgeous. Yeah.
And I love how they take everyday objects. There was this one thing he did. I don't know if it was for Robin Hood. He did it with Benjamin Moore paint chips.
Oh.
Like chandeliers out of paint chips. It was amazing.
I'll have to look that one
but
up. Okay.
Beautiful. And he's a great presenter. I've heard him speak a couple of times, and just like a really nice guy. So but yeah, it's funny. My marketing person is like, you need more pictures. And I'm like, I don't always have like the really big flashy things, I can take a stone and like squeeze it. I had a stone around here a second ago. Yeah. Like, if this is your budget, I will take this and I will get so much out of it.
Right.
Like,
You're going to squeeze it.
I will squeeze this thing and we will use it, to make it the most impact with that money. Right.
Right.
But that doesn't always mean like beautifully custom designed chandeliers made from Benjamin Moore paint chips. We can't always do that.
Although I could, I mean, I suppose that,
I could, and we could afford one, and then everyone would eat like Lunchables.
Well, or you would just recruit like a team of like 10 people. You would all hit up Lowe's and Home Depot and hit the paint sections and just like,
put it all
completely
together.
Put it all together.
I don't know. That goes down that DIY route. I think I saved it. There was a time period. I don't do social, but I do day of coordination for weddings of people I like.
Right.
Not just people I know, people I like. Right. Because nothing against social. It's just not me.
Right.
But I do really enjoy it. Like, I love day of. I love it. If I could just do day of all the time, I would. Like for any event, because again, it's that being on your feet, putting out fires, right? That for me, and strategy of like, how do we take this budget and how do we like
squeeze it. And
did I just lose you?
No, I can hear you, except that the video has gone completely.
I'm going to keep talking.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, just keep going.
Let's see.
Because it'll catch up.
I think I have interweb. I have the interweb. I'm going to keep talking like you can hear me. We'll see.
Okay.
Trish.
Yeah, I can hear you.
I'm going to keep talking. Anyhow. Oh, yeah. So I have friends who are like, oh, I'm going to buy all the linens and I'm going to buy all the chargers. Video has gone. All right, hold on a second.
That is so funny. Well, listen, if it's not wretched and it's not fun, it's not the Trish Point Out show. I should change my tagline to say that. That's exactly what I need to start saying to
We're
people.
Back. Dear Trish, all right, what I missed. I'm so sorry.
That's okay because while you were trying to figure out, do you have me now?
I have you.
Okay. I was just saying that if it's not a little ratchet and it's not fun, then it's not the Trish Point Out show. Something technologically happens in almost every one of my and I've lost her completely. Well, that's okay. All right, folks, we're at the 43 mark anyway. I'm gonna give it a couple of I'm gonna give it like a minute, see if Sarah comes back there.
That was terrifying.
It was hilarious.
It was
hilarious.
Try to do recorded video for a virtual event.
That was really, really funny. And I was just thinking, and I was like, oh, this is slowly, it's getting better and it's doing all the things. And I'm like, no.
No much for that.
But that's all right. That's but that's the nature of being a planner is that we, I just kept talking. You kept talking.
I love it.
Show must go on.
I know. I was like, I'm just going to talk to you. Even though you're frozen, I'm going to have my little rock here. I had, I was running an event. This is pre-side lobby, but we're getting, I was the fetcher of the speakers for the speaking program, and I go up and I'm like, hello, nice technical, tech company CEO, it's almost your turn. And he was like, great, I'm gonna go to the bathroom. I was like, no, you need to go now. And like he had gone. It was at the Reagan building in the atrium, and like he was down. And I'm like I almost had to chase him down and like bring him back from the bathroom.
You break out the point shoes, you start doing a little ballet, interpretive modern dance, it's like all of a sudden, like, all of a sudden it's like, Bob Fosse meets Martha Graham right on live video. It's fantastic.
I know. I don't have a performance background, but I can bring it out when we need it.
Right. But you have that knowledge base. That's what counts.
I do.
You know all about jazz hands. Just wow them with the jazz hands.
I have an event friend in Canada who calls me Jazz Hands. That is my official nickname.
That's fantastic. I could see that. I could see that about you.
I am also honorary Canadian. I am. It's not official like from Trudeau or anything, but it's real.
That's all right. I feel like if any 5 people have adopted you, like how many people have you been adopted by?
Let's see. Matthew, Lisa, Dustin, Neela, Alex. Like it's several.
Okay, there you go. So you officially, you have enough people for, you get to 10, you have a minion. So it's all good.
With the exception of one, like they're all in Alberta. So I'm heading west. If I move to Canada, I'm heading west.
Right. Which with everything that's happening, it might be a good idea for everyone, everyone involved. We might all be moving, up and west.
Again, my jazz hands friend lives in Toronto, and I remember, I will never forget being at ILEA Live, the International Live Event Association, of which I am a member, and a new member of the Board of Governors.
Oh right, yeah, congratulations on that.
I'm really excited. I mean, for I guess in 10 days or so, 15 days. But anyhow, so I was at our annual awards dinner, and I'm talking to my friend from Toronto, and he's like, this is in August, right? He's like, so Trump gonna get the nomination? He is not gonna get the nomination. I don't know what you're talking about, but he's not gonna get the nomination.
Right.
Next summer, he's like, so how'd that go? And I was like, he's not gonna win. Matthew, he's not going to win. There's no way he's going to win. And if he wins, I'm going to come move in your basement. And he's like, all right, I'll start making room. Yeah. The next year, he's like, so, so it's just been like one thing.
He's like, so when are you moving?
I know, right?
When can we expect you?
I don't know. He had a second kid. It takes up extra space. So I'm not moving into Matthew's basement, but
right. Exactly. It's a little bit too much, but
so through ILEA, I have these event colleagues not only all around the country but all around the world, especially up north in Canada. And at one point in time, they were like, you know what, you can be an honorary Canadian. And I was like, I might be pulling that card. So
right, you might be using that one some point soon. But you touched on a really interesting component of your career, and certainly something we're both passionate on is the education and association aspects of what we do. Yeah. And where we were for those of you who weren't out there, who weren't aware, Sarah and I were both speaking at the special. I was speaking at the special event. You were also a special event versus Cater Source, right?
Oh, sort of.
It's all sort of mixed together. But we spoke at sessions, and of course now it's the call for speakers next year, right. And I know that you are an educator, on a collegiate level and different things. Do you know what you are going to submit for next? I'm still I want to submit, but I don't know what I'm going to submit on. I don't know what people want to hear about next year. I mean,
and that deadline's coming up at the end of June.
Like 2 weeks, mid-June. Okay.
I think you reminded me, because I thought about that the other day, and I was like, that seems so far away. I feel like there's a lot of event life that is perhaps going to change before next March.
Right.
So it was funny. I actually had a conversation with Sally Kitteridge, who's the special event.
Oh yeah.
Like her name's on all the things, right? It's probably not actually her sending all those emails, but her name's on all the things.
Yes.
And she was changing out speaker things in a room, and I was just kind of hanging out, working on a PowerPoint. And I saw her badge. I was like, "Wait, you're that Sally? I know your name." But anyways, I was like, "Thank you so much. It's my first time presenting. I'm really excited." And she's like, "Oh, I'm so glad." And I said, I did submit one or two things before, but they weren't accepted. And she's like, "Well, what did you submit?" And I kind of talked through them, and I was like, "I think it's because I had sort of a weird title on it." And she's like, "Okay, well," she's like, "But what if you did this?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I think if I reframe it, I could, try that again." So this year I spoke twice, actually. I spoke
Right,
on
yes.
a panel with Kevin Molesworth, CSEP, and Jen Coyer, CSEP, who are fellow jazz hands. There are many people in the events world with a theater background. I know we're shocked.
Right.
However, I never knew of the special events world when I was a theater person. So it's like, I also try to tell current theater students, like, hey, there's this whole other world, like you could explore with skills. And so we talked about the theatricality of events, and kind of going back to in this interview, what we were talking about, like what are the basic components of an event? Like the basic component of theater, you need an actor and you need an audience.
Right.
And that's it. That's all you need, right?
Right.
There's an actor telling a story to an audience. Everything else is just extra, right? It's extra layers. I love my husband dearly, but we don't necessarily need fancy lighting. If we go outside, there's sun. We don't need a big, huge set. We can just stand, in the amphitheater in Greece, right? So anyhow, so it's the same thing with an event. So we talked about how an event is, draws on theater and how you can make them more theatrical. And then I also did a case study of an event I did last year with the Global Forest Watch, which is the project of the World Resources Institute. They were doing a 2-day summit and bringing in delegates from all around the world. Clearly, they're very passionate about the environment. Deforestation is what they try to track and work against, I suppose. So anyway, I was like, let's just make an attempt at a zero waste event. And I knew that was a very lofty goal to get to zero waste, but I figured with this client, this was something I wanted to try out, right? Because how are we being more sustainable was definitely, before COVID struck, sustainability was by far the biggest theme I saw throughout TSE Cater Source.
Right.
I was not alone in presenting on that.
Which was impressive. It was impressive to me because, because I came, when I first initially started to want to create a brand, I came at it from an eco-sustainable, perspective. Yeah, well, when I was in South Florida, I was the founding member of Green Meetings Industry Council, which has now become part of the EIC.
Yes.
That was like another component that you and I connected on. But so I understand. That there's so many components to creating a zero waste event. And it's really gratifying to me to get to a place where a lot of people are talking about it. Mm-hmm. But are they going to continue to talk about it? Or is this going to be a casualty?
That's the thing now too. Yeah. One of the gals who is on my event day staff, Suzanne Morel, is really big into green. She was the Green Meetings Council and very different other sustainability efforts here in DC and nationally. She actually spoke as well, but she was one of my event day staff for this event with Global Forest Watch, and it was great, sharing knowledge there, but also just learning, all those different steps we can take. Well, a lot of those steps that we can take are also not necessarily the most not germ-free, but I think about, you go into a hospital and how much waste there is, right? You're taking off gloves, you're taking off a mask, you come in, you come out, you take off the gloves, you take off the mask, right? That just builds up waste. And I think coming out of this virus, we're gonna see, everyone gets a bento box, right? That's disposable.
Right.
I
Right.
know that the big concern is how do we ensure that we're not taking steps backwards when we've started making such great steps forward. Um, like
Yeah.
to use
That's
sort
really
of the
interesting.
last couple minutes of our session here, I think that there are, in addition to, you don't have to do an event. I mean, here I am. Organizations, you don't have to do a gala just because everyone else is.
Right.
Ooh, my magic wand. Um, if I can get that message out, you don't have to do a gala because everybody else is doing it.
Right.
And please have a very clear objective, right? That's message one. Message two is that we as an industry have two really important things I think happening right now. One, we are creators of waste in a big way.
Yeah.
And
Indeed.
we need to seriously take responsibility for that and do more about it. I'm gonna go out there and say we need to really work on our racial diversity in our industry. Um, there's a lot of white ladies,
There
and
is there are, and certainly and if you don't need any, if you're outside of the industry and you don't know, too much about it, all you really have to do is log on to any association. I'm not calling any particular one out
no,
because they're all 100% guilty of it.
yep,
Look at their speaker roster
mhm,
and see who's signed up to be speakers of the particular sessions,
right,
and you'll see overwhelmingly that it's skewed in favor of white ladies,
yeah,
and that's not you know that's
and
not a
like
healthy place to be. It
right,
doesn't
exactly,
variety is what breeds creation,
yes,
right?
yes.
Like you can't be creative if you're always doing pink events in a pink box. You,
Right. No,
yeah,
I mean,
right.
and it's interesting too, because this has been something in the theater world that has been a conversation
Yeah,
for the past couple of years about how are we ensuring that all of these voices are heard, right?
right.
Um, and I think just how are we ensuring that we are participating with all of our clients? How do we ensure that we're reaching all of the people who need our help, all the organizations, how are we doing that? And it comes also down to education, and how are we
Right.
making sure that education is accessible to everyone. Can you afford to go through an event certification program? Can you afford, can we get rid of unpaid internships, please? Because that is,
Right, you're right.
as
Because
someone
it's really,
who
yeah,
did some of those, I was very fortunate to have the resources to do that, but I recognize that not like most people do not, right?
right.
So I think that is something that I am, that is something coming out of the past 13 weeks, the past 2 weeks especially. I'm really hoping to help increase, industry engagement at all levels. So.
Yeah, and to really learn to be the champion. When you see that there's inequity
Mhm.
in whatever space you're working in. So whether that is like whatever it is you do, and whatever it is, wherever it is you see the gap, learn to be that voice, for that person, because the one thing that I've learned time and time over the years is that when it comes to issues like diversity and racism, people will be a racist is not going to have any problem being, completely racist to a black person, but they'll be different with me. They're not going to speak to me, which is 100% wrong.
Mhm.
But that's when it becomes incumbent upon me to say something about it, to become a
Right.
champion for stopping that behavior.
Right. Or to be the voice that says, hey, we
That's
have
not
a
right.
panel. Like,
Right.
who's on this panel?
Right. Well, what I saw. What's funny is that I saw a meme yesterday, and it said, white ladies, we need to continue to put out your Karen, I need to speak to your manager voice, when dealing with racism, because Apple Care told you that, coverage was provided for all people, and you need to speak to a manager immediately. So, or, and no, you cannot be placed on hold or something. It was something to the effect of like
no, it's
using, again, it's all about using that energy to,
exactly.
to call it out.
Right.
And
Yeah,
you're going to be on the receiving end.
Exactly. And in the same way that I call out and be like, your silent auction isn't doing anything, don't do it anymore, right? I could say, this room is really white. This is not okay.
Right.
I think, when you work with the side lobby, you also get the fact that, I'm not going to necessarily always say yes to everything. If I don't agree from a data standpoint, right, from an ethical standpoint, whatever that might be, like, I'll tell you nicely, and then I will back it up with information.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because I've certainly, like I had a couple recently where there were several vendors who behaved a certain way after they met the bride, who is African. The groom is she is Black African. He is white American. And the vendors behaved differently once they met her. And I had to ride the fine line, right? Because I couldn't necessarily accuse them of being racist to her, but I did convey my feeling of what the conversation was. I just accurately told her, like, this is how the conversation went. This is what they said, and I will personally not work with them ever. Like, with you or without you, I will not be working with them.
Yeah.
But you tell me how you feel about it. Like, let me know how you feel about it. And she was appreciative of it. But it's again, you ride this fine line, and you just have to keep going. And action is important. I think that's where we're kind of getting at in terms of, like, and in terms of any of it is taking some sort, like don't just let it slide.
Right.
You can't let it slide. Just keep going.
Yeah. So,
okay.
Right.
And,
okay. And to bring this all full circle, right. We are in this time, where we're able to sort of press pause a little bit. And there is no business as usual anymore. Right.
Right.
Now's the time to move forward with, making those changes. So,
yeah. And there's no more that, I think the time of corporate neutrality is over.
Gone.
So time to get used to that. If you're not neutral, I mean, if you're someone who's always been neutral, that's over. It's over.
Right.
But that's a good thing.
Same here. Maybe a year ago, I wouldn't have come on here and told my story about how my conversation with my Canadian friend went over the course of 2.5 years. I wouldn't necessarily have told you all of those things. Right.
Right.
But no.
You would have told me in private, though. You just wouldn't have said it in public. You would have told me in private, though.
I would have.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily have put it out on this lovely video, which I will then share on all of my social channels with friends, family, and clients alike. But no, I have no problem doing that now.
Yeah, exactly. Because there's just no
because
you
do not want to hear my teacher voice. You do not want to hear my mom, you're in trouble voice, and you do not want to hear the I will get me the manager, because it's good. It doesn't come out frequently, but
you make it count. Like when you need to speak to a manager, you need to speak to a manager right now.
Right. And it doesn't go up here.
Right.
It just stays right here, and and I kind of enjoy it. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just it's a little bit fun.
So if I have the opportunity, I will use it.
Right. Exactly. Just let it go.
Right.
I
will let it go for good.
Right.
Use it for good.
Use your powers for good, Karen.
Is that in Wicked? I think it's in Wicked.
Right.
All right. Anyhow, I want to be mindful of your time.
Yes, thank you for that, because now I know you're paying attention to my interviews, because that's exactly how I get to the end of it. I want to be mindful of your time. I want to be mindful of everyone else's time. So you know what the follow-up question is then. You know what my ending question is. No, the pop quiz. Okay. No, that's okay. That's okay. All right. You haven't memorized it yet. So my last question of the interview is, when everything opens up and you can go wherever you want to do and eat whatever you want to eat, where are you going and what are you eating?
Oh, where am I going? What am I eating?
And you have a lot of good choices down there.
I do. Many places have been doing carry out, which is great.
Yeah. But it's not the same.
Truth to be told, like I don't get out of my house much because I have children.
Okay,
And
well,
this
that's
is
a
something
yeah, this is valid.
I've really enjoyed things going virtual and performances going virtual because
Yeah.
like I can see things. Um, I will say I do miss just going to Cliffs, which is like our neighborhood go-to place. It's right over by Eastern Market, and like having a draft beer in a glass, right?
Right.
They're doing to-go beer right now, but it's not really the same. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm also looking forward to going to Emily's, which is Pennsylvania and 11th Southeast. It's amazing. Their food is amazing. They've been doing a great carry out. Their Vietnamese iced coffee is delicious.
Okay.
But I really want to sit in there again and just watch Chef Kevin and his whole team. They have kitchen seats, so I want to do that. But then this is funny. Like I actually want to eat in with carry out or Trader Joe's Indian or whatever. The family next door to us, their kids are almost the exact same age as my kids, as our kids, and we sort of co-parent, right? When it comes to when our families get together, right? We just have 4 kids among us,
Right.
and we've been outside in the front having like parallel play and parallel dinner outside. We used to have dinner together at least once a week because we'd be like, I don't know what I'm doing. Do you know what you're doing? I have this. You have that. Okay, that's great. I'll meet at your place. Great, fabulous. And we would like feed the children, and we haven't been able to do that since February.
Yeah.
So to actually, that's what I want to do. It's not going out to a restaurant. I want to have the family next door like in my house.
It's been a really current thing. Yeah.
But that would be great. Sorry, that was a really long answer. But that's
no. That's okay because
that is not a mindful of your time answer.
No.
I'm a Shakespeare character. Like Shakespeare monologues are all about characters like working out their thoughts, and that's who I am.
It's all about the soliloquy, baby.
Soliloquy.
Exactly. So
I'm actually. It's not under right now. I have like I use my Riverside Shakespeare often to deck up my laptops. It's taller. Coming in handy since 1995.
That's all right. Right now, like the books that I use to prop everything up are kind of like, it's like a mixture of my life. It's like event books and like health books, and it's just a hodgepodge.
The Riverside is nice. It's a good like 2.5 inches, so 3 inches.
Yeah, nice. So I'll look into that. Maybe I'll just buy it for the sake of having it to prop up my stuff.
Capitol Hill Books, used bookstore right here on again.
Small
businesses, right?
Right.
Businesses. Support them all.
So, but yeah, support small business. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Sarah. Well, thank you so much for spending this Friday with me.
See your face.
It was great to see you again.
And thanks for. You did not say this, but Trish also was my official photographer during my TSE presentation.
I was.
I do.
Yeah. I was like paparazzi, like turn left. In the middle of your presentation. It's all good. All right. Thank you so much. And I hope that you enjoy this weekend. It's going to be a gorgeous one.
I know. Thank God.
It's going to be good.
Send the children outside, drink beer on the driveway.
Right. Yeah, exactly. At least it's something.
Not in a nice glass or a ton of clips, but we'll get there soon.
Right. Soon enough. It'll all come back soon.
And I can't wait to see you and give you a hug.
I know.
I'm a hugging person. So.
And who knows when that's going to be.
Who knows?
But whenever it is, we'll
be there.
We'll be there. We'll all be there. Exactly. All right, my dear. Well, thank you so much. Let's give it a jazz hands ending. Woo!
I love it.
I love it too. All right. Have a good weekend.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.